Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Atafkari Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vedaham etam purusham mahantam adityavarnam tamasaf prasthameva vidivati mritya eti nanyaf pantha vidyate anaya yasmat paramna paramasti kinchit jayati jananivaso devaki janmavado yaduvara parishat svaradorabhir asyam adharmam sthirachara vijinakana susmita srimukena Vrajapura Vanitanam Vardhayam Kamadevam Barhapuram Natavaravapu Karnayo Karnikaram Bibhradvasa Karnaka Kapisham Vaijayantim Shamalam Randhran Venur Adhara Sudhaya Purayan Gopa Vrindaranyam Svapadaramanam Pravishad Gita Kirti Shri Radhaya Pranaya Pranamah Kidrisho Vanaya Vaswadyo Yen Adbhuta Madhurima Kidrisho Mamadiyaha So Kyang Chasamadanu Bhavata Kidrisham Veti Yobhat Tadbhava Dhyasamajani Shakchigarva Sindho Harindu Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Name 408 in Vishnu Sahasranama, Prana. This name already occurred at name 322. It means that which gives life, which is the air of life, and in that sense is inseparable from life and indistinguishable and practically synonymous with life, which underlines the point of the previous name, or the explanation that or the understanding that goes with the name that occurred previously, Purusha, that the ultimate principle of existence is not impersonal, is living, and living means a person. Very definite on this point. The impersonal understanding of Brahman is that it's not very clear. Living or not living is living, but there's no symptoms of life, just consciousness, chinmatra. And in that there's Brahmanand, but what is there to be happy about? It's not at all clear, just being happy with nothing to be happy about, just being happy. And who's happy? Well, that's also not clear, because the personality has become merged into some mass. So the Vaishnava understanding is clear, and it's correct. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Purusha, He is the life of all that lives, as He states in Bhagavad Gita. Who knows? Anyone? Jivoham sarva jivanam. I'm the life of all that's living. So Jiva means that which is living. And one of the names of Vishnu is also Jiva. So generally we say Jiva means the living beings as distinguished from the Supreme Lord. It's Jivanam sarva bhuteshu. That's what it is. But He's also living, and in fact there's no question of life without Him. Again, that example of the Purusha who entered, and then the universal form came into, the universe came into activity. We also have this name, Prana, that is combined with the names of great devotees. So there are names like Radha Pran, who is the very life of Radha. There's description in Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that when Krishna had left Vrindavan, apparently, that Radha, in separation from him, was practically dead. And according to one account, she entered Rupa Goswami's account, but she entered the Yamuna with Vishaka and was not seen again. At least not in that form in Vrindavan. She later came as Satyabhama. Anyway, the point is that she is the very life of Krishna, and without him she cannot live. And even in mundane love affairs, people say things like that. Just came to mind one song which was very popular when I was a child. I hated it at the time, but it was being played everywhere and I couldn't get it out of my mind. I can't live if living is without you. That was one line, and anyway, it's not exactly said who that person is. It's a generic love song of people in Maya. And there are so many love stories. Up to the present day, there are couples who, for some reason, they're not allowed to come together, and then they enter into a suicide pact. The only problem is that they do go on living, but they continue as ghosts for having committed suicide. And we never heard of ghosts in couples being in love. So better to love Krishna. Because there's an analysis in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is also in one of the Upanishads, Brihadaranyaka, I believe. That why do we care about anything? Because we love ourselves. It is not for the sake of the wife that we love the wife, but for the sake of the Atma. So there's a whole description that whatever we do is because we have a sense of being very much concerned about ourselves. But Srimad Bhagavatam brings this topic to its full conclusion, which is not there in the Upanishads, that Krishna, he is Atmatma, he is the life of all living beings. And therefore the residents of Vrindavan, they loved him even more than themselves. So there are very many interesting topics if we excavate the jewel mines of the Shastra. The next name is Pranada, who gives prana, who gives life. This name also appeared earlier in Vishnu Sahasranama and will appear again. People, if someone can bring someone who's already dead back to life, that's considered a great miracle. There is a description in the Bhagavatam of the Danava, or demon called Maya, who would bring all the soldiers of the demons back to life, which made it very difficult for the demigods to fight with them, because the demigods' numbers were getting reduced, whereas the demons, they'd come back with the same force every time. In the Bhagavatam is also the description of two demons called Ilvala, I believe it was, and Vatapi. They had a scheme of inviting Brahmins to come and eat, and I believe that Vatapi was cooked as the meal. And then when he was eaten, then the Ilvala would say a mantra, now Vatapi come out. So he'd come out and sunder the stomach of the Brahmin, and that Brahmin was dead. Now actually this is a bit of a different story, because one time Agastya came and he knew what was going on, so he immediately digested everything. And when Ilvala said Vatapi come out, then Agastya just burped and said, too late, already digested. Agastya had a good digestion. He drank all the ocean and digested. So shouldn't drink too much water, not more than one glass at a time. but he drank the whole ocean. Anyway, we're talking about Vishnu, the life giver. Jesus Christ is famous for bringing people back to life. And therefore he's considered to be God by some people. Actually by quite a lot of people. But at that time, in much of the world, including Palestine, where Jesus was wandering around, it was quite a common thing for people to do miracles. And when the preachers of Christianity came to Greece, the Greek people were quite unimpressed. They said, when they heard of all the miracles, they said, well, we have our own miracle man right here in Greece. A chronopulus, something like that. He'd been to India and he'd learned all the tricks. So he said, well, Jesus did all these miracles. Well, he did much more miracles, and he never said he was God. So a major job of Christian philosophers in the early times of the church was to debunk and blaspheme the stories of Chronopulus, I think his name is, and to say it's all bogus and this and that, because it was a serious theological problem for them. Their whole theology is based on miracles, not a very solid basis. If they want to make someone a saint in the Catholic Church, they have to do it, I think they have to have 3 well-attested miracles, and then they can become a saint. So they have a whole bunch of almost saints.
Okay.
Sant pride. That they've been given the nod. Okay, you can be a saint, but we're just waiting for the miracles. I mean, someone has to pray to them, and then they get cured from having some incurable disease, or the saint appears in a vision and gives some prediction or something like this. All childish stuff, actually. The problem is, in the modern day, there are all these so-called rationalists who are very eager to debunk any so-called miracles. Just like recently in Bombay, I mean it's about less than 2 years ago, there's a public crucifix and Jesus was crying. And the local people were coming in collecting the water, very holy water. And the local Catholic bishop said, yes, it's bona fide. And then one of these rationalists came along and investigated and found that there was some water dripping down onto the crucifix from some drain. So it's difficult to have miracles these days. Anyway, he took the opportunity and became a refugee in Ireland or somewhere. He managed to get a visa for the Western countries, saying that I'm in danger of my life in India. Anyway, we're a bit off subject here. Krishna is also the giver of intelligence. So if someone wants to be a damn fool number 1, Krishna also gives him the intelligence how to be so. If someone wants to believe in something which is completely stupid and be convinced, and Krishna gives that achala shraddha, that strong, immovable faith. Yepi anya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvita tepi mameva kauntaya tepi mameva kauntaya dadami. What is it? Yajantya vidipun. Tepi mameva kauntaya. No. Look it up. I'm getting mixed. Yo yo young. No. That's the last line of yo yo ya. Yepi ani devata bhakta yajante tasya tasya achalam shraddham tamema viditamyaham. Krishna says, if someone wants to, Krishna already established that worshiping demigods is foolishness, but he says if someone's into that, and they really want to worship some demigod, then Krishna gives them the firm faith, yes, this is the best thing to do. So whatever you want to believe, Krishna will give you the intelligence to support it with apparently logical conclusions. Another meaning of Prana da is, da can also give the idea of taking away. So he also takes away life from the body. In Bengali and probably in Sanskrit, if you say that someone is save my life, then you'll say, or is protecting my life, then you won't say, generally we won't say jivan, we'll say prana. Because the jiva, that life, the life of the jiva, that never ends. But the prana, which is connected with a certain body, the life air, that ends. So when you say protecting our life, it means protecting this particular life in this particular body. There's no actual death of the living being. And even what is death, the death of the body, the scientists or the doctors, they can't exactly define it. That is when the jiva leaves the body. And even more precisely we can say when the prana, when the life airs leave the body. When they leave and without no coming back. So there's a description in the Bhagavatam, in the 3rd canto, how the living being is taken away in the subtle body. In the 4th canto, in the story of Puranjan, there is the allegorical story of the attack on the city, which means the body of the by Chandavega, and eventually the life airs are taken away. The snake, it's allegorical. So Krishna gives life and he takes it away. So as Srila Prabhupada often explained, that we cannot give life, therefore we have no right to take it away. There's also another meaning, means who gives life. Well, in English we have the word lively, which means not just alive, but active. A tortoise or a bear, they can be alive, but they can be sleeping for months, literally. But lively means they're alive and their life is expressed in their actions. Puppies or kittens, they're usually very lively. Sometimes we see someone's eyes. Here's an example. We can see by the eyes if someone is alive or dead. That's one test. Sometimes we see someone who's alive, but by their eyes they look like they're almost dead. It means they're deeply in the mode of ignorance. Very dull consciousness. Deep depression, something like this. But someone who's spiritually advanced, who's controlling the mind and the senses, their eyes become bright. So, who gives brightness to those who meditate upon him, he is Pranada. Also, one explanation is given as that in the form of the sun, he enlivens living beings. And another explanation is that he gives life by giving Krishna consciousness, because without Krishna consciousness, everything is as if dead. Achaitanyamidam vishvam. So those who are not in Krishna consciousness, they are like zombies. They're moving around, but they're just like dead people. So the sun giving life, that is prayed to in the Gayatri mantra, that by meditating upon him, the living beings in all the 3 planetary systems, they become enlivened. So Vaishnavas understand this to be ultimately this Gayatri mantra is praying not exactly to the sun, or the sun as a manifestation of Narayana. And the next name is, we just had Prana, Pranada, and the next name sounds similar, but it has quite a different meaning. This is not Prana, but Pranamah. Which means he who is worshipable he unto whom Pranamah, the obeisance, is offered. He who makes others bow before him. Everyone has to bow down before Krishna. Those who do so voluntarily, they are benedicted in the best possible way by Krishna. Those who refuse to bow down to Krishna will be forced to do so. In 1968 in Seattle in the United States of America, at the end of a lecture, you can hear it, one man says, obviously not a devotee, says, having seen all the devotees bowing down, he says, well, I don't see why I should have to bow down. He objected to that. It goes against the American ideal of being the strong, tough individual on top of the world, doesn't bow down to anyone. Srila Prabhupada responded vigorously. Srila Prabhupada said, you don't want to bow down, you will be forced to bow down. If you don't voluntarily bow down before Krishna and the Vaishnavas, you'll be forced to bow down by birth, death, old age and disease. When you're lying on your deathbed, you may say, well, I don't see why, but you don't see why, but anyway you have no choice. We are controlled and we should recognize that the power that is controlling us. So one way or another, everyone bows down to him. Better to do so voluntarily. Among those who do so voluntarily, there are gradations also. There are those who do so out of fear, just like in the religious system that I had shoved down my throat when I was a child. The whole idea was to fear God. If you don't do what God says, you'll get burned in hell forever. So you better get in line, otherwise the all-loving, merciful God will burn you in hell forever. Okay, that's a beginning of God consciousness. Not very appealing, but it's a beginning. It just presumes everyone's of criminal mentality. Then another little bit more advanced inducement to bow down to God is, well, if you respect God, then you'll get all nice things. You can get all things to enjoy in this world and the next. But the real platform of bowing down is being just marveling at His unlimited transcendental qualities, taking pleasure in His transcendental brilliance. We find the many prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam, they praise the transcendental glories of Krishna. And the prayers of Queen Kunti. What's that when she says, those who hear and chant about you? You know that verse? No, not Apuna Bhavadarshanam. Can you see that one? Oh Krishna, those who hear and chant about you, who take pleasure in your doing so, they see your lotus feet and therefore they never see repeated birth and death. Can you find that? I'm a little dull this morning, as usual. Very beautiful prayer. Shinvanti Gayanti Grananta Bhikshanad Gayanti Smaranti Tavehitang Janaha Ta Eva Pashyanta Chirena Tavakam Bhava Pravaho Paramam Padambujam. Oh Krishna, those who take pleasure, you see, they're not doing it out of fear, but they take pleasure in hearing and chanting about you. Or they take pleasure in others doing so. They certainly see your lotus feet. And therefore they never have to see repeated birth and death. Then the last verse of Kunti's prayers, look it up because I'm not going to remember it properly. Shri Krishna, Krishna Saka, Vrishni, Vrishabhava Nidrug Rajanya Vangsha, Dahanana Pavaga Virya, Govinda Godvija Surati Haravatara, Yogeshvara Kilo, Bhagavan, Namaste. I left out one. Yogeshvara Kilo, Guru, Bhagavan, Namaste. So she prays to Krishna as Krishna says, you are Shri Krishna. You're also Krishna Saka, which means the friend of Krishna. What does that mean? Anyone remember who's reading the Bhagavatam? Arjuna's friend, because Arjuna is also known as Krishna. He's also blackish. Shri Krishna, Krishna Saka, Vrishni, Vrishabhav. He is the greatest among the members of the Vishnu and other related dynasties. Actually, why don't we just read Prabhupada's translation? It's beautiful. It's poetry in prose, and the other one also. It's just beautiful. It's the best that English has got to offer. Can read that?
O Krishna, O friend of Arjuna, O chief amongst the descendants of Vishnu, you are the destroyer of those political parties which are disturbing elements on this earth. Your prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode, and you descend to relieve the distresses of the cows, the brahmanas, and the devotees. You possess all mystic powers, and you are the preceptors of the entire universe.
You are the preceptor of the entire
universe. You are the Almighty God, and I offer you my respectful obeisances.
Jai Shri Krishna. So this is the way we can pray to Krishna. We can pray, please save me from hell. Meantime, I'm going on and doing all sins, but you have to save me from hell. Well, that's the beginning. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also taught us, Ainanda tanuja kingarang patitang mang vishame bhavam buddhao. I'm fallen in this horrible material world. Gauramana, exactly, yes. That's the same word. Kripaya tavapada pankaja sthita dhuli sadrishang vichinta. Please place me as a speck in the dust of your lotus feet. So this is the various ways to approach Krishna, who we should offer obeisance to. Best we hear Srimad Bhagavatam and become so much impressed by the transcendental qualities of Krishna that we naturally bow down to him. Just a little anecdote to finish off here, how even the great devotees, they can incite by their character such a feeling of bowing down. I actually heard this on a lecture that was recorded in the 1970s. It's quite a spectacular anecdote, but as far as I know, it's not in writing anywhere until I put it in English in that book, Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav. So Bhakti Hriday Ban Maharaj, who was a major figure in the pastimes of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he was in Bengal, he used to, or generally wherever he was, he used to move around all the big people in society and try to engage them in devotional service. So one of his acquaintances was the Maharaj of Bardhaman, who told Ban Maharaj, as Ban Maharaj told in this lecture, that one time I thought that, he thought to himself that, see, I regularly go and see this Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and I bow down to him. That's the normal thing. Everyone bows down before a sadhu. But I just thought, why should I bow down? I'm the Maharaj of Bardhaman. I'm known and respected throughout Bengal and at least among the high-class people throughout India. I have such a respectable, prestigious, aristocratic position. So he decided, next time I go to see him, I won't bow down. Just see how he reacts. Because everyone's supposed to bow down when they go to see a sadhu. See, even the Rajas used to follow that. I know a Raja, Kshatriya has to bow down before a Brahmin or a sadhu. So he thought, and so next time he was in Calcutta, he came and he went and he was opening the door and he said, okay, I'm not going to bow down, let's see what he does. It would be a noticeable breach of etiquette. Everyone would be shocked. So he walked in and then he said, then my head just went down. I just automatically, I couldn't keep my head up. It just went down. So some of the qualities of Vishnu, they are manifest in some of his great devotees also. So it's a very good thing to learn, to bow down. I saw when I was living in Bangladesh that all the women means from about 15, 16 onwards, they all have babies, plenty of them. So the women coming into, when they'd come to see me, they'd have their little babies and they'd put them down on the ground and put their head down. And before the baby can even have any idea of what's going on, they're training them to bow down. So by the age of about 3 or 4, they just do it automatically. When they see someone, they understand they have to bow down. When they see someone respect, they see the elders bow down, then they'll automatically bow down also. And they feel very happy to do that. Unlike the man in Seattle. And if for some reason they don't do it, they feel there's something very wrong. Like Bali Maharaj, he wanted to bow down to Vamana, but he couldn't because Vamana had already instructed Garuda to tie Bali Maharaj up. Similarly, Draupadi, when Ashvatthama came, Ashvatthama was brought before her, tied up. He had killed all her children, but she bowed down. And although Arjuna had gone with the promise to bring back Ashvatthama and kill him, she said, no, you shouldn't do that. He's a Brahmin, or at least he's the son of our Guru. So it's very important to know, to have this culture, and also to know who to bow down to. That was that Abhiram Thakur, if he bowed down to any stone which wasn't a shalagram, it would break. If someone had some bogus shalagram, like you can buy in some holy places in India, factory-made shalagrams. In Somnath, in Prabhas, I saw one man was selling all different items, including what looked like factory-made shalagram shilas. So I told him to sell a shalagram shila that's stated in Shastra, that's very sinful. He wasn't disturbed. He said, what can I do? I have to maintain my family. Hare Krishna. So we'll finish there. Any questions, please? Oh, another important point about Pranamah. That when in Shastra we find that obeisance is offered, but it's not clear who the person is, whose obeisance is being offered to, we should understand that's to Vishnu. What is that? That Vedais Chakramapanishado Gayanti Yang Samagaha. The Vedas and the Upanishads and all the other scriptures, they offer obeisance to him. Pranada, another meaning. He purifies the devotees' senses. Yeah, he gives them, by purifying their senses, he enlivens the senses by which they can serve him. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Actually today lecture you are saying about the demon Maya bringing back to the life of the demons. So we hear in scriptures, in few places, like even in Ramayana, the devotees are bring back to life. But we
yeah, in Ramayana also, all the monkeys that were killed, they in the Lanka war, they were all brought back to life by Rama's glance.
And we also say that the scientists, they cannot do this. So is there any possibility of, anyway they cannot do it, but how do you understand this?
Well, maybe the scientists will find some way of bringing the body back to life. You want to translate? Just 2 days ago, I heard Srila Prabhupada speaking on this, a recording of Srila Prabhupada speaking on this subject, discussing how the scientists, they're trying to create life. So he said that even if they do, what's the great credit? Life is being created every day, every moment, in so many forms. Srila Prabhupada said it's just like there are so many dogs barking in the street. But people will pay money to go to a performance of a man who can bark just like a dog, and they'll clap him. So Prabhupada said that even if they do create life, then what's the credit? They should give credit to the one who is creating life all the time, at every moment, in so many forms. But instead they're trying to do a dog barking type of show and take the credit at how brilliant they are. As Srila Prabhupada also pointed out, to date, the scientists have shown themselves much more expert in inventing all kinds of things for killing rather than giving. They're talking about making life, but they're expertly producing all kinds of things for killing, for taking life. Yeah. Just speak in the mic.
Hare Krishna. The names which are repeated in Vishnu Sahasranama, so does they have different meaning all the time?
Do they have a different meaning all the time? Well, the same name has the same meaning. And each name can have many meanings. Particularly this Sri Vaishnava commentator, this Parashara Bhatta, he comments on each name in the context of the names that have come just before it and just after it. So he ascribes different meanings to the same name as it appears in different verses of Vishnu Sahasranama.